Welcome to the deep dive. We're plunging into some really intense and complex source material today, excerpts from Stephen King's epic saga, The Dark Tower.
That's right. Yeah, we've got a collection of passages here that are just absolutely packed with strange locations, terrifying adversaries, and characters pushed way beyond their limits.
Our mission with this deep dive is really to navigate these pages, pulling out the most important nuggets. The key insights, the crucial details, the surprising reveals, and the powerful forces that drive this whole narrative forward.
Think of this as your guide, maybe through the later stages of Roland's quest, sort of a shortcut to understanding the chaos, the cost, and those connections that really define the journey to the tower.
Okay, get ready. We're going to unpack some really harrowing battles, explore these bizarre and dangerous landscapes, look at the deep, almost mystical bonds between companions, grapple with absolutely devastating loss, and feel that relentless pull of destiny towards the Dark Tower itself. Let's dive in.
Okay, so let's start by looking at some truly intense confrontations and what they tell us about the capabilities of the characters and the nature of forces they're up against. We see some really visceral fights here.
Absolutely. The passages kick off with Per Callahan facing creatures described as vampires or low men or women. It's desperate, it's close quarters, really harrowing stuff.
And Callahan, he doesn't just rely on, regular weapons. His faith, it becomes this tangible force. His weapons are his crucifix and these really powerful layered commands. The power of God commands you. The power of Christ commands you. The kind of midworld commands you. The power of the white commands you. He's pulling on multiple levels of power there. Yeah, and what's particularly striking is the physical effect of the cross on these things. The source describes their skin like sizzling, liquefying, spilling this thick, curdy yellow stuff. It makes the spiritual battle horrifyingly physical, doesn't it?
It really does. And amidst all that chaos, Callahan has this moment of, well, profound self-awareness and maybe longing. He feels like he was made for this, that this is his purpose, yet he also just desperately wants to go back to being Callahan on the roads, feeling his duty might finally be done.
Right. And his final thought in these passages, that blessing for Roland, may you find your tower and climb to the top. It just highlights the sheer scale of Roland's obsession, his single focus.
From that very spiritual fight, we shift to Roland's direct confrontation with a creature called the Child of Roderick, a walk-in. And this scene powerfully shows Roland's inherent authority. The source says his voice holds the blood of a king.
hmm He issues this really formal, almost ritualistic summons. So come forth, ye child of Roderick, before me, Roland, son of Stephen, of the line of Eld. It's a direct assertion of his lineage, his claim.
And we see this through Eddie Dean's eyes, which adds, I think, a really fascinating layer. Eddie's caught between being fascinated and frightened by Roland's raw power.
Yeah, he's grappling with Roland being both his this fated companion and his friend. In this moment, it raises a crucial question for Eddie, one the text really wants you to think about. Could Roland sacrifice any of them, any member of his quartet, if his heart told him it would get him closer to the tower?
And Eddie admits, pretty honestly, he can't say for sure that Roland wouldn't. That potential for sacrifice, it's just always there, isn't it?
It really is. And it's underlined even in moments of creation, like Mia's incredibly intense birthing scene, which we experience through Susannah's perspective.
Right. Despite the, truly bizarre and terrifying circumstances around Mia, Susannah's training, Roland's teaching, it just kicks in automatically. She remembers, you must never draw until you know how many are against you.
Basic survival instinct drilled into her.
Exactly. And Mia delivers the baby, and her first fierce focus is just on the child. Does he live? And there's this immediate, vital detail about the baby, a distinct crimson mark on the babe's left heel.
And then you get this truly unsettling moment that devilish creatures gathered, these bond servants of the Crimson King. They have this totally unexpected reaction. They broke into applause and laughter.
So weird.
And even stranger, Susannah finds herself, just for a second, joining them. It's a glimpse of something deeply bizarre, maybe a twisted acknowledgement of life, or just the sheer madness of it all. It really highlights how unsettling these servants are.
It's a moment of shock, definitely, before Susannah just snaps back to the reality of survival and immediately starts arming herself. She grabs a Walther PPK, finds extra clips, and makes a conscious, very practical choice not to use the vampire's weird electric sword, thinking, better the tools you knew than those you didn't.
Which makes total sense.
Yeah.
She also has this peculiar interaction with a robot, Nigel the butler.
Right, Nigel.
He's super formal, even though he claims he's blind from gunfire, and he gives this cryptic information about all the doors in this place called 16. The specific number is significant.
Yeah.
595 are currently operational. And he adds that 595 adds up to 19, adds up to chassis.
Which links the place directly to the Catet's destiny, right?
Yeah,
Chassis is their word.
exactly. And Nigel confirms the door Susannah came through, New York #7 FedEx, was one way and is now burned out. Basically gone to the clearing at the end of the path, another one of those resonant phrases in the saga, often meaning death or an end.
Yeah, no going back. He also mentions seeing the stuck mech foreman, notes his fried boards, just adding to that sense of decay and weirdness.
And speaking of defiance amidst strange decay, we get a quick glimpse of Jake Chambers hiding in the Dixie Pig kitchen. He overhears these menacing voices calling his friend, "Oi, the fada's dinner," and threatening Jake himself with being dessert. Pretty grim.
But Jake, channeling maybe some of Eddie's spirit, comes back with these incredibly defiant, witty retorts. He tells them to turn it sideways and stick it up your ass, and later, "Come on in, I've got plenty of plates." It shows his incredible courage, his resilience.
Yeah, he even feels this lunatic urge to just rush into the fight, which, as the source points out, is actually kind of strategically sound because it's the last thing these these minions, often disguised, would expect from a kid.
So, moving from those individual moments, these excerpts suddenly just throw us into this large-scale chaos and catastrophe at the Breaker prison, Agul Ciento, also known as Devartoy.
Yeah, this battle scene is just pandemonium. You've got fire engines, almost like agents of fate themselves, just intervening, plowing through the guards, running them over, including specific people like a low man named Ben Alexander and a breaker, Joey Rososovich.
And you feel that immediate, raw human reaction to the horror. We see Pimley Prentice, the master of Algol Ciento, moaning, "Dear Christ, no," covering his eyes, and this woman, Tanya, mourning her dead husband, Joey. Just brutal.
Right. And amidst all the physical violence, there's also this psychic battle going on, a chaotic good mind vibe, suddenly shifting to a bad mind now, thought bombardment that the captive breakers and the guards are all experiencing.
And Pimley, the warden, he has this furious moment of realization. He sees through the psychic noise and correctly blames Ted Brodigan. That's almost got to be Brodigan, grabbing an idea and amplifying it that way. Who else could? Fucking Brodigan had done this.
And then, arriving right at this peak of chaos, are Roland and Eddie. The description is so specific, so iconic. Raindrops, still fresh, wearing their trail-dusty gun-agar, that distinctive Western gear-carrying revolvers with sandalwood grips.
Leads to immediate recognition, even amidst the carnage. Only one sort of man carried guns that looked like that, and Eddie sees something that's both shocking and I think profoundly insightful about Roland. Old, long, tall, and ugly. Roland is smiling in the middle of this bloody battle.
Yeah, Eddie thinks, wonders never ceased, it seemed. It just shows how utterly focused Roland is on his goal, finding satisfaction even in the most horrific circumstances if they move him closer to the tower.
All these encounters, all these demonstrations of power, they're deeply tied into the most powerful and complex force in this universe, Ka.
Yes, Ka. And it's so much more than just fate or destiny, isn't it? It's this pervasive cosmic force that guides, compels, sometimes clashes with individual will. You see it in Roland's weary acceptance of his damned old Ka regarding John Cullum's role.
And we see Eddie constantly struggling with it, especially as it relates to Roland's single-minded chase for the tower. He questions if Roland's Ka would inevitably lead him to sacrifice his friends, yet Eddie also feels this pull, right? Acknowledging he had to go on with Roland.
Roland himself often uses Ka to sort of rationalize the painful choices, the sacrifices, thinking it's still Ka, even when faced with really strange or horrific stuff near the tower. Even Mordred, this unique, unnatural creature, he wonders if he's somehow outrun Ka's umbrella. Whether a death by fever instead of by Roland would be meant by Ka.
But maybe the most powerful insight into Ka comes from Susannah near the end of these passages, that profound realization. Ka is a wheel. And this understanding, it isn't just abstract, it's the key that brings back her fragmented memories. It suggests the cyclical nature to existence itself, tied to this force.
Yeah, it suggests that journeys might not always end definitively. Maybe they lead back to familiar beginnings. And it's a concept deep in Roland's lineage, passed down from his father. If Ka will say so, let it be so. Acceptance.
And within that larger force of Ka is the equally potent bond of Katet.
Right. This isn't just friendship. It's a connection forged by fate, by shared purpose.
Yeah.
A deep, almost psychic bond. It's shown simply but powerfully when Susannah hears chassit, that shared crucial word, in her head, not just spoken aloud, because they were Katet, bound by fate, and maybe bound by something even deeper, beyond just this journey.
Central to the stability of, well, everything in these excerpts are the beams and the rows.
The beams are described as crucial, almost like physical structures holding reality together, all converging on the tower. John Cullum gets their importance, recognizing that the rose in New York City, which seems mundane, is actually incredibly vital. It protects one of these beams from the destructive efforts of the telepathics, the breakers.
But Roland's view of the beams, it's really revealing of his single-mindedness, isn't it? For him, they've always been no more than means to an end. His ultimate, unwavering goal is just the Dark Tower itself.
Yeah, despite Roland's tunnel vision, the Katek, understanding the immediate threat, they make a collective decision. They have to prioritize saving Shardig's beam, which means going to the Breaker prison and Algulciento. Roland says yonder prison is the place to start.
And after the battle there, the relief is palpable, almost mystical. Shimi, who's simple but very connected, makes this joyful proclamation. Beam says all may be well. Beam says thank you. And Roland senses that the beam, now less strained, can offer them protection.
What's fascinating here is that detail about people in New York City being inexplicably drawn to the Garden of the Beam, where the rose is. Even people who don't consciously hear the rose singing are pulled there, like by a powerful magnet. He shows the subtle but potent influence of these forces, even in our familiar world.
Standing against the forces of the White and the Tower are the main adversaries we see here, the Breakers and the Taheen.
The Breakers are introduced as telepathic beings, essentially captured and enslaved. Their power is being weaponized to break down the beams. That's the primary threat to the tower, to reality itself.
And we learn about Ted Bravigan's connection. He's a genuine, incredibly powerful telepath, but with a wild talent that's physically taxing, something he doesn't want. He was captured by the Low Men, taken to a horrific place called Santa Mira. We even get a specific grounding detail from his past, getting mugged in Akron, Ohio in 1935, where his nose was broken. It links his personal history to this huge cosmic struggle.
And there's that disturbing detail revealing the true horror. The Breaker's power is amplified by the kiddies they bring through the station. This implies capturing and using children with psychic abilities, just amplifying the evil of the Crimson King's operation.
Then there are the Taheen, creatures like Finley Otego. They're described as hybrid-like, often part human, part animal, with voices ranging from a yelp to a growl. Pinley Prentice compares them to creatures from H.G. Wells's The Island of Dr. Moreau, really highlighting their unnatural, engineered quality.
Finley Otego expresses this sense of unease, feeling hinky, and he partly blames the loss of communication since the last beam went. So the struggle for the beams impacts even the enemy ranks. Interestingly, he's also skeptical with the common stories, the Crimson King, the Dantet, the Katet, the Gunslinger saving the tower. He dismisses it all as bullshit, every bit of it. Offers a glimpse into maybe some internal divisions or disbelief within the enemy.
And then, in a really unique meta twist for this series, the Katet actually encounters the writer himself, Stephen King.
This revelation comes through Ted Bravigan's audio tapes, specifically a part Jake jokingly calls Ted's Connecticut Adventure.
Susannah has this profound, almost fourth wall breaking realization about King's role. He made the pair, he made Brodigan, he made us. Eddie, ever the pragmatist, kind of refines it slightly to, he facilitated us, acknowledging their own agency but recognizing his influence.
Yeah, and there's that specific, fateful detail from Susannah's dream. David Brinkley announcing Stephen King's death by minivan in Lovell, Maine in 1999. This dream provides a crucial plot point, a specific time and place where they might actually intersect with their creator.
Based on this, Roland makes a surprising but definitive decision when they're planning. He prioritizes saving the writer. He sees him not just as a name on a tape, but as a man, a writer who's telling our story. It elevates the importance of the narrative itself, in a way.
They do eventually find an injured Stephen King right after Jake's sacrifice, and Roland recognizes something deeper about him, that King sings the Song of the Turtle, Vizek Kagan, linking him to one of the foundational beings of their universe. He also sings Urs Kagan, the song or cry of the bear, adding another layer of connection.
King's final plea to Roland after being saved, it's really poignant. It redirects Roland back to his core purpose. Leave me alone now. Put your foolishness behind you and your grief, and do as you'd have me do. Finish the job. And he clarifies his role, right? Explaining he's not the ultimate source of Ka or their world, just the pipe the water runs through. He's a vessel.
Yeah, suggesting the story exists independently of him, in a way. Another significant figure encountered in these passages, born for that strange soup of Ka, is Roland Deschain.
Mordred. Introduced as deeply unsettling, a unique creature, described as part human and part of that rich and potent soup, hinting at his unnatural origins. The question's even raised if he might somehow be outrunning Ka's umbrella, existing outside its normal paths.
In his horrifying first act, detailed here, is killing and eating Walter Paddock's eyes, casually calling them the appetizer. It immediately establishes his monstrous nature, just chilling.
What's fascinating and pretty chilling, too, is his apparent detachment from the bigger conflict. He feels no interest in his Red Father's plans or ambitions, preferring the bitter loneliness of outside. He observes the world and the catet's journey with this strange, almost childish curiosity, like watching an ant farm.
He does understand the gunslinger's immediate goal, though, to break the breakers, recognizing them as an obstacle on his own path towards Roland.
But in a twist of dark irony, Mordred makes this fatal, almost mundane mistake. While he's in his spider form, he eats the meat of the dead horse, Lippy, which was sick. This leads to severe food poisoning and fever, a common, almost ignominious end for such a creature of dark power.
Yeah, we see his final, desperate, fever-weakened attack on Roland near the tower, and his end, shot by Roland writhing in the fire. Susannah has this poignant thought watching it, feeling Roland actually felt sorry for Mordred despite everything. She concludes that blood was still thicker than water, a testament to that complex bond, however twisted, between father and son.
Right. And we also saw Mordred watching their campfire earlier, described as being jealous of their companionship. Just a fleeting glimpse of maybe a twisted desire for connection.
So we've looked at the characters, the forces, the adversaries. Now let's chart the incredible variety of journeys and destinations described in these excerpts. The Catet and others, they really move through worlds.
The Catet's movements are traced so vividly. From the bizarre Dixie pig, they travel in Chine. John Collins Ford feels almost normal for a second to Turtleback Lane in Lovell, Maine, specifically in the summer of 1977. They pass recognizable things like the Magic Lantern Theater showing Star Wars, and they see the lake near Dick Beckhart's cottage, which is unnervingly described as looking like the eye of a zombie.
Susannah has her own distinct, very disorienting path. She arrives to that door, New York #7fetic, into this strange place called 16. She journeys with the formal robot Nigel Butler through bizarre corridors, on frozen escalators, passing sites like the eternally stuck Metformin.
And her desire to get back to New York through her original door is blocked because it's burned out. So she has to be taken to a different functional door instead. No easy return.
No. And Jake's journey under the Dixie pig is unique too. He's whistling a song, finding signs of an old, defunct tram system, encounters unsettling graffiti like All Hail the Crimson King and Bango Skank 84, passes broken robots, vehicles. He even perceives the environment shifting around him, from jungle clearing to forest. Very strange.
Then there's that mystical transition to Steak-Tet, where they just join hands and pass through a wall into a small clearing. Shows how weirdly permeable reality is in Midworld.
We visit Algul Ciento, the Birdo toy, the Breaker prison. It's paradoxically described like a small but perfect college campus, merged with a village, but with places grimly nicknamed Shithouse, Damley House, Warden's House. It's this veneer of normalcy over absolute horror.
New York City is crucial, of course, the location of the rows. We see the Sir Speedy Park, parking garage, the lobby of the building with the Garden of the Beam, where people are drawn towards the rows, even unconsciously. We meet Moses Carver and his daughter Marion there, tied to the rose's protection.
Then comes that brutal physical trek through the White Lands, pulling Susannah on a sled, a travois through deep snow. The harshness is really emphasized. Blizzards, wind, the constant cold, that's just disheartening. Not enough to kill outright, but draining energy, draining will. Susannah particularly struggles with cold hands, tearing eyes.
They travel the coach road towards Le Casse-War-Rus, Castle Discordia, find little left of the town around it, encounter treacherous devil grass, hear the voices of Housy's ghosts in the ruins. It unnerves them, makes them camp outside. They finally get to the castle forecourt, marked by the Crimson King's eye painted right on the cobbles. Grim welcome.
Their descent beneath the Dogan under the castle is described as creepy and unpleasant. They hear Tadash chimes. Those sounds from between worlds smell a stinking draft from an unmarked door. Susannah feels fear, questions the path, but marvels at Roland's ability to navigate stairs, obstacles in total darkness.
They find that peculiar sign. This checkpoint is closed forever, with the king's eye below it. Yet amidst the ruins, they find unexpected supplies, canned food, sterno, and a rickshaw, a dog cart named Hofat, and a ruined Quonset hut. Little bits of survival gear.
Another significant stop, Odds Lane. just an intersection marked by a sign in the snowy white lands. Here they meet Joe Collins and his blind horse, Lippy. We even get that specific, slightly bizarre detail about Joe's house, his bathroom wallpapered pink with green leaves and wild roses, a touch of the mundane surreal.
Finally, the ultimate destination comes into view, Can Condo Ray and the Duck Tower itself. It grows closer, revealing spiraling windows, two steel posts at the top, clouds forming an X shape from the beam paths. They hear voices singing names of worlds as they approach.
They pass great stone men painted with blood-red stuff, reach the base, find stone stairs going up. Exploring rooms at the landings, they find them filled with strange echoes. Carved faces, Calvin Tower, Roland's father, personal items, a corduroy dress, a bumbler's collar, ring alevio, relics, feathers from David the Hawk.
And they hear the Crimson King's voice calling Roland out from one of the tower's windows, which Roland just pointedly ignores. His focus is solely on climbing.
These incredible journeys through such very dangerous landscapes, they come at an immense, just heartbreaking cost. This section really lays bare the high price paid on the path to the tower.
We reflect on Callahan's likely end, facing the vampires, his thoughts turning to a simpler life even as he blesses Roland's quest.
But the most devastating losses detailed here are the deaths of Eddie Dean and Jake Chambers, the core of Roland's quartet. Eddie is shot, dying at El Gulciento, but the sources give us his incredibly poignant final moments, telling Susannah he's going, sweetheart, not coming, a final kiss, promising to wait. With Roland, that gesture recalling the Kamala dance, saying, "We had, sometimes," just gut-wrenching.
The emotional impact is huge. Jake's overcome with grief. Susannah, despite the danger, stays to bury Eddie. And it's not just two deaths, it's explicitly called the breaking of the tet, the shattering of that fated bond, a profound, almost cosmic loss.
And then there's Jake's final heroic act, sacrificing himself, shielding Stephen King from the minivan in Lovell, Maine. The source describes the impact, Roland's desperate shouts, "Jake!" No, Oi's heartrending cry.
Jake's final words confirm it, chillingly noting he knows because he's done it before, referencing his previous death. He uses his last breath to urge Roland to finish their purpose. See to the man we came to save. Roland's left to bury Jake by hand, mark the grave with stones while Oi lies beside it, loyal to the end.
Yeah, and there's that heartbreaking detail that Oi's unique ability to speak might fade with Jake gone. It emphasizes their bond. The bumbler loved Jake from the first.
We also see Mordred's end, shot by Roland near the tower, dying in the fire. Walter Paddock's gruesome death at Mordred's hand, his eyes eaten. The horse Lippy, shot by Roland, later eaten by Mordred. It's all part of the brutal tally. Other characters mentioned in battles, Cy Sayers' crew, Ben Alexander, Joey Rastasevich, they also perish. It just underscores the pervasive violence.
And finally, there's Susannah's incredibly difficult, character-defining decision to leave Roland and the tower's path. She concludes that Roland's way of the gun, way was death for those who rode or walked beside him.
She makes that courageous, painful choice to go through a door to New York City, accepting she might seem like a freak show escapee there, and knowing for her there was no going back. It's a choice for life, maybe, away from the tower's deadly pull.
Yet amidst all this overwhelming loss and sacrifice, these passages also hold these unexpected moments of hope, connection, strange beauty even.
Like Susannah momentarily joining the creature's applause for Mia's baby, that flicker of shared experience in the bizarre. Eddie and Roland sharing that brief, knowing smile during the absolute pandemonium at El Gulciento. The palpable sense of protection from the beam after the battle is won. The subtle, drawing power of the rose in New York, affecting people unconsciously.
The unexpected warmth of a fire in the harsh, soul-draining cold of the White Lands. Susannah's raw, triumphant scream after killing the deer, a moment of reclaiming agency. Her simple, profound prayer, "Our Father who art in heaven, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven."
And that final, really resonant moment Susannah shares with the man she meets in New York after stepping through the door. Feeling an electric touch, the immediate, powerful sense that they will fall in love for the first time. It suggests a new beginning, right? A possibility of life and love outside the direct path to the tower.
This brings us back, doesn't it, to the cyclical nature suggested by Susannah's final moments and her understanding that Ka is a wheel with her memories returning.
Yeah, it hints that endings in this universe might not be final, but maybe a return to something known or a chance to live it differently.
Exactly.
So, we've taken a deep dive into these powerful and really dense excerpts from Stephen King's The Dark Tower. We've explored the intense confrontations, the capabilities of the characters and their adversaries, the complex force of Ka, the deep bonds of Katet, the symbolic weight of the beams and the rose, the bizarre horror of El Gultiento, and that totally unexpected meta encounter with the writer himself.
We've charted the brutal, heartbreaking cost and lives. Jake, Eddie, Callahan, Mordred, others. Highlighted the difficult, very dangerous journeys through multiple worlds and landscapes. And finally traced the relentless path that leads right to the foot of the Dark Tower itself.
These passages are really a masterclass in blending intense action with deep thematic concepts like destiny, sacrifice, connection, delivering raw emotional impact alongside high-stakes fantasy.
It really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? About the nature of the quest itself. What does it truly mean to pursue a single goal like the Dark Tower at such an immense personal cost?
Yeah, is the outcome, whatever's waiting at the top, ultimately worth the sacrifice of companions, of self, of any chance at a normal life?
And if Ka really is a wheel, does the end of one journey just lead back to the beginning of another, maybe eerily familiar path? Or is there a chance, like Susannah's story might suggest, to break free? Find a new loop on the cycle, something to consider as you reflect on these complex and compelling sources.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.